Good evening. Hopefully everything is working just right. I can tell that my computer can hear me, but I'm not 100% sure that you can hear my computer. I do have, three reveals ready for this evening. 55 Philadelphia, 55 Denver, and 55 San Francisco. I'll need a few minutes in between each to prepare because I kind of started a little bit behind the gun. I was attempting to get everything together today, and this air duct cleaning that we had was a lot more involved than I thought. So I was taken aback for most of the day trying to get things taken care of. Can everybody hear me? Just making sure. I don't see anything else in the chat with people telling me they can hear me. Howdy, everyone. Hello, Tyler, Otis, Richard, Taco. Who else do we have up there? Dan McCumber. Okay, everybody can hear me. All right, we're going to go ahead and get started with this roll, 1955 Philadelphia. Of course, there's more to be looked for on the obverse than the reverse, but there is a nice reverse double die that I know of, at least one different one. So we will check at least the first 10 coins to see what we see out of this on the reverse before we move on to just looking at the obverse for now. When Eric gets back from his vacation, he'll have these ready for him to check. And let's see what we've got. Well, we've got a 1955 Poor Man's Double. Now, the Poor Man's Double, again, I'll let you know, is that doubling just on the outside edge of the second 5 of the date. Well, that is die wear. Basically, all it is, it's called a braided die doubling. All it is die wear. And this is what they generally sell for $5 or more online as a poor man's double die. And what this is, just die wear. It's where the outside edge of the lettering close to the rim starts to break away from the area just outside the lettering, and it causes a smear effect toward the rim. You can see it up here as well. And that just makes the die look old. Whereas, for some reason, this just makes the die look old, makes the die look like it's should not be in service anymore. And then and this down here is somehow different and neat. But I can tell you it's the exact same effect either way you look at it. And so that's what we have on this one. Let's take a look at the reverse and see if there's anything on the reverse we need to be further discussing after I move back and stop looking at it on a molecular level. Let's see here. There we go. And we have nothing back here. A little flag off the top left of the E in 1. It looks like a leaf growing off the top of there. That's just a die chip, the corner of the E. Nothing else on there, though. And that is and was coin number 1 from Marshall. Normal coin. Let's move on to coin number 2. See what we find in coin number 2. Cheesecake? I'll take some. Yeah, I know I'm diabetic. Don't pay attention to that part. Yes, I love cheesecake. Thank you. Oh, looky there. We have die cracks all over the head. We've got one running across the cheek, which is actually kind of unusual. And then we have all the striation of color running across the coin. That would happen to be a little bit of a woody effect, improper alloy mixture. And that is what we have on the obverse. No doubling, though. Let's check the reverse real quick and see what happened here. Got a big old giant die break on the T there. And nothing else do I see. Did everyone have a good weekend? It is almost over, unfortunately. Here we are. Oh, mine was perfectly fine. Just as was my wife and my son. We all sat around and had some ham and chit-chatted for a while, and it's more than we usually do, so we had Thanksgiving. Let's see, coin number 3 now. Paul Hampton. I guess because it's just kind of the three of us, and we don't really know very many people around here at all. Most of our dealings are over the telephone with people in Florida or online with people around the country, like you're seeing right now, so we don't have a lot of local people here in North Carolina that we can go to for any sort of dinner or support or anything, basically. We have a few neighbors, but we're not close to anybody here. So we kind of hang out in the neighborhood a little bit, and that's about it. But as for being really good friends with anybody, inviting each other over to dinner and stuff like that. We just don't really have that here. Up to coin number 4 now. Coin number 4 goes to Carl. And Carl gets... I'm not 100% really expecting anything out of this roll, but 55 is one of those ones that if you don't check it, you'll always be sorry you didn't, because there's never any telling what could have been in that roll that you didn't see because you didn't look. So we look at the 55s. Oh, there's a little flake down there. It's a lamination peel. It continues on up, but that right there is a very small version of a clamshell. Clamshell would be where a layer doesn't stick to the coin properly and starts to peel away. That would be if the entire layer was like that, but you can see it's just a small strip of the layer, so it's a lamination peel instead. Well, I tell you, we did like a 4 or 5 pound ham, and that sounds like a lot or doesn't, but for 3 people it was quite a bit. We ate a good share of meat while we were sitting there, and then I shaved up the rest of it into little cubes and blocks and stuff and put it in freezer bags and froze it so that we can use it for beans later on, because beans and ham are one of our favorite things to do when it gets cold outside, that and chili. Got nothing on this one. Let's see. Nothing on this reverse. Hello, farm dog. Good day, sir. That's number 5. Here's number 6. 6 goes to Jordan. And to Jordan, we send, other than our undying love and support, appears to be a normal obverse of a Lincoln cent. See about the reverse. And although this is earlier dice date than most of the others that I've seen, it's a very clean looking coin. Really nice one. It is a normal Lincoln cent, so there's no die variety or error going on here for us to chit chat further about. So we will move on now to lucky number 7. And Farm Dog gets lucky number 7. Let's see what Farm Dog gets. Let's see what his coin looks like. Well, it's a relatively clean coin, except it has a few little spots on it. I would say mid to late die state. Mid to late because it does have quite a bit of flow up there at the top of the letters along the rim, and you've actually got some breakdown. Breakdown meaning breakaway, complete breakdown of the outer edges of the lettering. And that would be in a later die state. Now, a mid to late die state simply means that it's still relatively clean looking throughout. Has pretty decent outlines around everything, but it is becoming aged. So mid to late die state we go for there. It's kind of a, I can't really define that as mid die state, and I can't really define it as late die state, so we'll go in between. This is late die state here. So this means that it's very likely the reverse has been in service less time than the obverse in this particular die pair. Neither side, however, is a double die. Hello, Jackalope. So we continue to move on. Stan is our next customer. Let's see what Stan gets here. Jackalope, I don't think you got in this first roll, but I'm pretty sure you got in the second one. I remember having to figure out exactly how to type your name to get it to fit. Of course, I didn't fit Jackalope Herdmaster in there, so I just called you Jackalope. Just enough so that we can identify each other without cursing. I'm sure I could have called you many different things, but Jackalope seems pretty good and pretty well defining. This is machine doubling that you're seeing all over the left side of everything. Basically, the die shifted left right after it struck the coin, bounced on the coin, flattening some of the field. So that would mean, I guess, the die bounced to the right. All right, let's do coin number 9 now, Mark. But I am getting the name down right, that it's not Jackalope Hardmaster, it's Jackalope Herdmaster. Well, because naturally, jackalopes come in herds. Somebody has to master the herd. I'm getting the meaning, kind of. I guess it's one of those things, somebody asks you, what do you do for a living? You don't really want to tell them. You say, well, I'm a jackalope herder. And actually, I've been to school for it, and I've done it for so long now they call me a jackalope herd master. A 42D RPM number 4, very, very nice. 42D number 4. That's the that's one that's kind of scarce, isn't it? Let's see here. 75 in pennies, baby. She hasn't hung around for very long in these. We'll see if we can get her something good here today. I'll try anyway. Well, she only got 1 or 2 spots. I can't remember. But this one doesn't look like it's an obverse anything. Here we go with the reverse, and it is normal. So we come out of this with another normal coin. That's coin number 10. That's the last one I'm going to be checking on the reverse for now. We'll look at them later, but it'll be after the show is over. And get this show finished and move on to another. I've got 3 scheduled for this evening. The 1955 Philly, the 1955 Denver, and the 1955 San Francisco. Well, that's got a Larry on it. Somebody was eating their chocolate bar when they looked at this coin. And just checking the reverse on this one, and then we'll move on. I've seen this obverse and reverse before in this roll. So let's move on now to coin number 12 for Mickey. Everybody wish Mickey a speedy recovery. He has become ill over the weekend. I've chit-chatted with him a couple of different times. He's not feeling very well, so I've kind of left him alone as much as possible. I usually ridicule him, but I didn't do that today. I actually had somewhat of a heart. This is Mickey's coin, so I'm going to look at the reverse too. Feeding the homeless youth at Star House. 7 turkeys, 2 hams, green bean casserole, potatoes, gravy, stuffing, mac and cheese, and 7 pies. Pop 2. And I bet they were super thankful. But I can guarantee half of them walked away with some hunger. Because kids can eat you alive. Thank you so much for doing that for the youth of our country. Perhaps it will be that one of these days somebody will remember seeing your face at that dinner, and they'll say, hey, I want to do what that guy did. I want to go help others. That's what I always hope when I go, like dressed up in my VFW uniform or whatever, if I'm going out to help a group do something or help people in need. I hope they look to take my action and pay it forward someday when they recover from their position. The overseer of the imaginary better keep track of the channels that debunk conspiracy theories. It's too lazy to make another account for coins. Oh, okay. So let me ask, Jackalope, are you one of the conspiracy theory people, or are you one of the conspiracy theory debunkers? You don't have to answer if you don't want. Might be a little on the personal side, but while we're having conversation, might as well ask. And I'm one of those people. I'd rather ask and be told no than not to ask and wonder forever. Frosty. Another normal 55 here. We're not going to get anywhere that way. We need to get some double dies in here. You're on debunking all the way. Okay. All right. Good deal. I did learn something today that I did not formerly know. I formerly knew it, but I did not formally know it. I believe my knowledge today becomes formal. I spoke to a person from Israel who was born, raised in Israel, has been in the Israel Defense Force before. Next Thursday is traveling back to Israel to serve in the army again. And I talked to him about the $6 billion that was released by the United States to Iran, and a very possible source of funding this little movement against against Israel by the Hamas, because it's very likely that Hamas is tied with the Iranian government. And he says, nope, that's actually not the case. He knows that $6 billion plus from the United States got caught up in Qatar, and it's sitting in safe hands in an Arab friend country to us. And Iran never actually got a hold of it. That plus the Israeli intelligence has reported publicly that the plans for the attack on the 7th of October of this year by Hamas against Israel had been in working for 2 years. And it was no more than about 6 months ago that the sanction money was to be returned to Iran. So, A, they don't have it, did not use it to fund Hamas. And B, this plan to have Hamas jump the border and attack Israel had been planned for much longer than this money release had been known about. So that comforted me in just a little way, because I had actually believed that there was a possibility that all this money suddenly going into Iran was actually somehow financing the attack by Hamas on Israel. Now that, I don't necessarily take sides either way. I don't know enough, obviously, by what I just said. I don't really know enough about exactly what's going on over there, how or why or anything else, to make finality of judgment for or against any party. So I am not especially supportive of either side of the war. I'm more supportive of all the people who have to be hurt in proving whatever it is that they are proving. The hostages that were taken and the lives that have been lost on both sides ever since then, just to have hostages freed and returned to their homeland. There was a message in all that somewhere, and I'm not exactly sure what the message was, because we still don't understand the real purpose in them taking the people that they took. So, who knows? Everything has been proven true? I don't know. I just saw something last night. It was a show that had been recorded quite some time ago, so I'm not exactly sure how far back the show actually came out. But it was about the 1963 assassination of JFK, and it was entitled JFK, What the Doctors Saw. And trust me, there was many years that the doctors never really said with any definite purpose exactly what they saw, what they said at that time, and what they were told not to say. But this show basically enhances the idea that all of the doctors who visited with Mr. Kennedy that day to see what had happened thought that he had been shot from the front as well as the back, meaning that there had to have been two different gunmen, two different rifles, at least two different ones. 4 or 6 shots were heard. Those 4 or 6 shots, couple of them came in too rapid succession to have been a rifle that had to be bolt action cocked. So they think that there was the recording of the noise from the scene at that time kind of proves that there had to be more than one gunman. Well, all along, the U.S. government and the CIA have stood by their theory that Lee Harvey Oswald was the only shooter. If that's not conspiracy theory, I don't know what is. But it was an interesting show nonetheless. I mean, it lasted over an hour and it entertained me to the point where I watched the entire thing till I fell asleep. I don't have any idea what actually happened. It was 8 years before I was born. So not only was I not there, but I couldn't have been if I wanted to be. So I just kind of leave it up to the people who were actually there and saw what happened, or the people who actually perpetrated the crime, to know exactly what happened for real, and it's not my business. He was 2 presidents before my birth, and I mean, for Pete's sake, my parents were both in high school then, so it's a little far back for me to go. I think it's one of those things that, yeah, it kind of happened. Does it really matter why at this point? I mean, you know, you walk into the kitchen and the milk is spilled all over the floor, and the kid's standing there with the fridge door open and staring at the fridge door and the milk. Did the kid spill the milk? Well, it looks like it. Do we really care? No, we got to clean it up and move on with life. It's just so hard for any common person to pick apart the granules of protection the government places on certain subjects and do anything definitive with it. The only thing that we really have is the hearsay of this person or that person, or maybe a little shred of possible evidence here and there that some people have learned to carry to the extreme. And that with a number of different subjects as to the whys and whens of how things happened tend to be pretty much all we have to go on. And it turns into a free-for-all of speculation that I choose not to participate in. Basically, I don't do conspiracies because I don't know. If I wasn't there, I can't tell you. I've gone to a point where when I was younger, I would, let's say 10, 12, 14, 16 years old, when I was listening to the national news, and I used to listen to Tom Brokaw or Peter Jennings or Dan Rather on the news, or Walter Cronkite for that matter, and they would tell you this and this happened. You just believed it. I mean, what point would they have in lying to you? And it's gone to where now with what's his face on ABC? I can't remember the guy's name. Then you've got Nora O'Donnell, and then you've got Lester Holt. The way they do the news, and some of the other people who are newscasters, and you see the pretty cool, a nice color on this one. And they come on and they tell you how this and that and this is true, and then 3 days later they come on and tell you something completely different is true, and you don't know where to go. You don't know who to turn to. You don't know who to listen to. And it's like I told the Israeli person today that I spoke to. I told him that I watch news from different parts just so I can see everyone's different opinions of how the same thing happened. I watch the NBC News and the ABC News just about every day. And why I can't remember that guy's name, I don't know. But yeah, and then you've got I listen to BBC, and I go onto the Stern's website, and I have spent some time here and there on Greek news, British news, Russian news, watching what they all say about what happens with American affairs. And I'm pretty convinced nobody's telling the truth. All you have to do is pick out of all of it what makes the most sense. And when you add all the stories together, and not one of them is exactly the same as what any one source says, that's probably when you're closest to the truth. Yeah, we don't get news reporting anymore. There is no such thing as reporting anymore. The only reporting that you get is when there's a house fire or when there is a car crash. Things like that. That's reporting, because you're not really changing how an event happened. You're not biasing it with your opinion. Of course, that does happen, though. In some cases, we see, blah, blah was killed when their car hit something. Or their car hit it. So we're going to put the blame on the car, are we? So the car hit a tree, and it injured a person. Well, whatever happened to the person injuring the person because they weren't paying attention to the road? It's a big pet peeve of mine. It's a can of worms I don't open up often because I don't ever like the outcome of the conversations I have over that. Hello, Arizona Coins. Good evening. If anybody happened to have watched Frostbite's selection this morning at 8:45 Central Time, 9:45 Eastern, came on and I showed a bunch of my counterfeit and altered coins on his stream. And it turned out to be, near a 2-hour show. And I took up pretty much all the time and just showed coins and talked about them. And showed fake coins and talked about them. And if you have any interest in that subject, I would suggest you find Frosty's stream that we did this morning, because there's a lot of stuff in there. I actually, if I didn't actually have these coins in hand, I would probably go back and watch it again and again, because I showed probably 30, 40 coins, all of them fake or altered. Explained how they're altered, how they're, how they look fake. Yeah, I think Frosty's going to be a shining star in coins. He's actually working toward educating people and getting people to understand and know the truth about numismatics, and that's I applaud that, and I like that. No clickbaiting going on here. The guy's actually got the stuff. He's got information. And he's good at it. Yeah, Arizona Coins, I remember you getting up early. Of course, I don't know whether it was early for you, but it would have been early for me to watch that stream. I actually did get up at 8:45 thinking, I actually got up at 8 o'clock, but got up at 8 o'clock thinking the stream started at 8:45, and I went into StreamYard, and I'm sitting there, and I'm sitting there, and I'm sitting there. Well, finally, right at 8:45, I sent Frosty a text message, and I said, I'm waiting for you. And he says, oh, I must have been not so clear. It's 8:45 Central Time. So that'd be 9:45 your time. We have another hour. I was like, oh, okay. Well, I had another hour. Goof around, make another cup of coffee. Change out of my PJs into real clothes. Check on my eBay bids. That kind of stuff. And then close to the end of our experience together, in fact, it was just about time to shut down everything anyway. The air duct cleaning people came, and I was kind of taken aback because I didn't expect there to be that much involved in cleaning air ducts. I just thought that they stuck a vacuum cleaner up in the ceiling ducts and cleaned stuff out. Oh, it's 5 now? Well, it's 7 o'clock here, so you're 2 hours, but you're in mountain time right now then. Or you share mountain time. Sometimes you guys share Pacific time, sometimes you share mountain time. And I can't ever, for the honest sake of conversation here, I cannot remember which is which for Arizona because, I don't go there very often, and I don't pay a whole lot of attention to what time it is in different places, as much as I should probably. Being a broadcaster, I should be paying better attention. It's like right now, I know it's pretty much dinner time for most left coasters. And I'm either doing things too early in the morning for left coasters, or I'm doing them too late at night for the east coasters, or something. Being almost as far east as you can be in the United States has its disadvantages when you're a broadcaster to the United States, and the world actually, but more the United States than anything. Being in Central Time Zone was actually kind of a helper because I was only a couple hours off Pacific and I was an hour off of Eastern Time Zone. So if I did something at 7 p.m., it was a pretty decent hour for most people. Now if I do things at 7 p.m., I'm blocking the middle of the afternoon for the West Coast. You guys trying to do your walk on Redondo Beach, and I'm trying to get ready for bed. Right, I knew that, Arizona Coins, I knew that. What I didn't know was because you don't change time, which time zone do you share at this point? And you answered that earlier as Mountain Time. And then when everyone else changes time, except Indiana, and hopefully other states will start falling in line, because I wish everyone would just quit changing time. But when you guys don't change time and everyone else does, you will go back to Pacific time. Or you will go back to sharing Pacific time with the Pacific Coast. I, on the other hand, live in a place where they change time every 6 months, and you gotta get used to it. And I personally don't like it either direction. Some people tend to like fall because you get that extra hour of sleep, but the problem with that is your extra hour of sleep wastes daylight that you wish you had at 5 o'clock in the afternoon when it's getting dark outside. Right? Just keep everything at standard time. Actually, daylight saving time I like better, because in the summer it doesn't get dark until 9:30 at night, and that's actually kind of cool. Right now it's getting, well, of course it's becoming winter here, so it doesn't really affect that much differently now, but it was getting light just after we changed time a few weeks back. It was getting light at 6:30 in the morning, 6:15, 6:30 in the morning. And it was getting dark at 6 o'clock in the evening. I'm like, no, I don't like this. That's not for me. If I've only got 12 hours of daylight, I'd prefer that it get light at 8 o'clock and get dark at 8 o'clock. Florida, thing about living in Florida. Florida is a little bit different in that Florida is far enough south that your sunrise sunset time difference doesn't affect you as much as ours does farther north. The farther north you go, the less time you get in the winter and the more time you get in the summer. And the closer to the equator you get, the more equalized they are. And so in Florida, by 5 to 10 degrees, they're more equalized than in other central parts of the United States, such as Kentucky, Virginia, Colorado, places like that. Then you get further north, like when you get up into Minnesota and Canada and places like that, their daytime is greatly foreshortened in the wintertime. Then you go to places like where my son lives over in Sweden. Middle of the summertime, it gets light there at about 5 o'clock in the morning, and it doesn't get dark until past 10:30 at night. And in the wintertime, they have a window of daylight that's about 6 hours long during the middle hours of the day. Well, not having snow doesn't really bother me all that much. What would bother me is like Florida weather, where it rarely gets cooler than 70 degrees year-round. I do like having cooler weather. I like having fall. I like having the trees change and fall the leaves and all that. Man, there's a lot of these are really kind of spotty. It's not so great. But we're looking for good, and we're not finding it. in this role is becoming a bust, and I'm becoming rather perturbed, but I'm hiding it by talking. Go over the bridge in 20 minutes and fall back an hour. It's just so... I wish there was a better way to handle time, but I tell you, coming up with time zones was probably the best thing they ever did. And that has nothing to do with changing time because of harvest. That's all about the fact that the Earth seems to be round because it's daylight on different parts of the Earth at different times. And if it were flat, there'd be no way to explain that. But, yeah, that's kind of a thing, back before they actually had time zones and drew lines on maps. You had towns where one town would be 10 minutes ahead of another town would be 30 minutes ahead of the one before, and you've got literally 500 different settings of clocks across the country just because everybody's trying to stay straight on with the sunrise and sunset being at a specific time. Well, that, Dan, I can see as being a good reason why you would want to stay in warm weather most of the time. I get it. It makes sense. I do know that my fingers hurt a little more when it's cold outside. But I can't, I don't know. It's the almost panic attack that I get when it's so hot outside. I can't do anything about it. I can't get cooler. I can't cool off. It's just too hot to cool off. And it does that sometimes. And I do everything I can to take care of myself in situations like that. But I tell you, the weather's a bitch in the middle of summertime on people like me because I don't do very well in heat. And, well, given that I lived in Florida for 10 years, I know what Florida heat is like. I live far enough inland that the sea breeze did not catch me. You live in the two states that don't change time? Would that be Indiana was the other? Yeah, I know, Jackalope, but as far as flat earthers, all you have to do is tell me a person's a flat earther, and I immediately kind of shut down. Because there's just no there's no logical, realistic support for the whole flat Earth story. There just isn't. It is so obvious that the planets and the Earth are all spheres that someone who really wants to argue the flat Earth theory, I think they're only trying to do that to be different and to be respected for their difference. I don't think they're doing it because they actually believe it. I can't imagine anyone grown up actually believing that the Earth is indeed truly flat and that this map of the globe that they've come up with that looks like a big petri dish, I just don't understand. How come it's round? Why is it round if it's flat? Why couldn't it be a square or a tetrahedron shape, or a star shape, or I don't know. Oh, there's flat Earth people everywhere, yeah, for sure. All of them are equally bent. They've got something going on wrong with their upstairs. They ain't quite communicating right with their downstairs. And I hope nobody listening to this is an offended flat earther. I don't speak to offend, but I do speak the truth, and that's my truth. Whether it's yours or not isn't my concern. It's my truth. And Nah, it's just the way I like it. If you don't like it, you don't have to listen to it. That's the way I look at that. I tell you what, folks, we're getting ready to move on over to the next roll, which would be the 1955D roll. I'm going to have to take a few minutes to stuff the inserts. So I'm probably going to be close to 7:15, 7:20, maybe 7:20. But I'll be back for that. It's going to be reveal number 603 1955D. Go find it and go grab yourself a drink or go to the restroom or whatever you need to do. Take a short break and come back in. And I will be there waiting for you. I'll see you then.